I always say there's a difference between an extra miler and an empty miler. The extra miler studies 16 hours on a Saturday. The empty miler studies 15 minutes a day, every single day, committed to his excellence, the spirit of excellence. Welcome back to Office Hours. I'm David Meltzer, thrilled to be here in Las Vegas at the SiriusXM studios in the lobby of the Wynn Hotel. And there is a Las Vegas superstar that we love having in the studio whenever he can afford to be here because he has so much going on in his life. He's the all-time leading rusher for the Rams. Nope, not Marshall Faulk. He's already been here. But it's Steven Jackson. Welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you. How are you? How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you, my friend. I want to talk about the spirit of excellence to start because you came in and you're like, hey, we're going to talk about sports or business or family, health, all the different areas that you have a spirit of excellence about. I told Albert Preciado there about the common denominator of billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers that I've dealt with at the highest level. They all have a spirit of excellence. They have a desire that they must be what they can be. And to align that with your skills and knowledge, it becomes an awesome manifestation of desire, of a delta that most people are enamored and amazed with. Obviously, I had that same desire as you for football, but wasn't born with the same skills and knowledge to effectuate. My delta is much lower, let's just put it that way. For you, where did the spirit of excellence come from?
Wow, Dave. Well, always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
And a great question as you allow me to kind of ponder that. So I'll share with this as it's kind of be long-winded. I do a weave as this
Makes for good content. Makes for good content.
Yes, but I would say, since we last seen each other, I had the privilege of giving my university's commencement speech.
Wow.
And in doing that, it was quite a challenge. I was in January of this year. President of the university reaches out to me and said, "Hey, we would love for you. Would you take us on this offer?" I said, "Sure." So then, your mind goes to places, right? You want to be able to touch the whole room. You want to be able to touch the stadium. You want to be able to speak directly to the students that's graduating. And you're talking about over 7,000 students in this particular class. So you have a wide range of bright minds, a lot of ambition in the room, and you can feel the energy of the family. Relief of a lot of different things, I'm sure.
Especially the bills.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Especially
I got
the
4
bills.
kids. I get it. We did it.
Right.
Cha-ching.
And then to your point to your question of excellence, how do you reach everyone in the room because you want to pigeonhole yourself to just athletics, right? And to that, I start thinking about what journeys have I gone on that reflects life in the room. And the journey that I found the most challenging and the most rewarding was I had the chance to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. And hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, you're on this 5-day trek. You're on the mountain with people you don't know. You challenge yourself mentally and physically in ways that you never thought you would, right? Football, it's only 60 minutes. Practice are normally 2 hours. You grade it, you watch the film, coach tell you what you could do better. But when you're in this kind of a journey and you're talking about just one step in front of the other, the road gets it gets dark. It gets the scenery kind of fades away to what's desolate, and you're just like, what did I get myself into, and am I going to finish, and when it's going to get to the end? And I took myself back to the excellence, to the point of excellence. It's just one step at a time, and I think a lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves to hit these marks or trying to live up to things our family may have accomplished for us or want for us or friends think that we should be able to do. And it's really just talking about taking the next step. The hardest thing about going to the gym is just arriving, getting there. So on that mountain, I realized you just continue to just put one foot in front of the other. And at the end of the day, when you get to camp, you get to lay your head down for the night to just start the journey all over again. You're just appreciative to be able to do that.
I love that.
As long as you have breath, as long as you're able to give praise, as long as you're able to, feed into one another, that energy finds its way back to you.
I love it. 0 to 1 takes as much effort as 1 to 100. Well put. I bet that commencement speech is awesome. Is that on your YouTube short? Yeah. Is that on your YouTube shorts?
It is. It is. I'd make sure I DM it to make sure you see it.
I would love it.
I'd love to watch that too. We're getting deep.
We're
getting deep here.
Steven Jackson.
I love it.
It's better to get deep with him than try to tackle him. Trust me.
I would imagine. So I'm going to date myself here, but I think I'm in good company. The movie For the Love of the Game. fantastic movie, right? And in that movie, he always talks about, that line, clear the mechanism. And I think about that as a high performer and somebody that's done so well in sports and in life and in business, it's so important for us to be able to clear the mechanism and shut out the noise, right? To quiet the negativity, to not pay attention to what other people are saying, to not listen to other people's narratives and stories for your life. You've obviously been able to figure that out to excel in these two places. What do you do to clear the mechanism and shut that out?
I typically give myself early mornings, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. That's my time to just reflect, let my mind just go. And if you're anyone that meditates or prayer, that first 5 or 10 minutes are the most challenging because your mind continues to think about what you need to be doing, what you have coming up in the day. But, the more you sit there in that silence, you allow those things to pass through your mind. Then that's what I find for myself. The vision of what I want for myself starts to appear, right? And in that quiet time and the stillness of night, that's how I shut out, that mechanism, the noise, focus on what I want, what do I see? Because to do anything, you have to first believe in and see it. If you never give yourself that chance to do that, you're never going to be able to accomplish anything because you're going to be, again, listening to the noise and the naysayers.
Love it.
So, Steven, being drafted 24th, when you, I'm sure you were expected to be drafted like first, second, third, fourth. Did that affect you in any way? Like motivate you to become the best? And when you have challenges, like just follow up from that. When you don't feel great, like what made you like fight to make yourself great in moments where maybe you feel a little ill, maybe you're not feeling your best, maybe something happened? Because I think the difference from elite performers like yourself versus the good performers is that you do whatever it takes no matter how you feel.
Sure, you're right. You're spot on about that. So taking 24th overall, that means 23 people went ahead of me, right? And in the NFL, a little different than other sports, most teams take what they need, not what's best available, right? It took me a couple of years to realize that, but it allowed for me to have that chip on the shoulder that going into that career, and allowed for me to not feel like I've arrived. I still feel like I had a lot to prove, although I've accomplished a dream. So it was a blessing. Being drafted that late in the first round, you typically go to a team that's competitive. You have some established guys on the roster. So, you guys met my good friend, Marshall Falk. And with that, you got those kind of players in the locker room. You just sit back and just be a fly on the wall, see how they prepare themselves. What do they do to make themselves successful? We all have talents and abilities that's unique to ourselves, but there are routines that you could take from one another to add to your own skill set. And so being taken 24th overall, it allowed for me to play with some future Hall of Famers and some guys that are in the Hall of Fame now. I adopted their way of work. I adopted their way that they approach watching film. Then you culminate that with my own talent and wanting to prove to the world and prove to the city of St. Louis who drafted me that I was deserving of that. And speaking to practice, not only do you have those days where your body's banged up, you're tired, you're looking for the excuse not wanting to perform at the level you could or you can, but I always believed in those days that's when you work harder.
Yeah.
So, go into practice, you may have a sore throat, and that's not a time to take it in. You may go to the sauna, and then you go in the practice field and you run just as hard, try to sweat it out. Put those things on the line, and putting those things on the line routinely when you get to Sunday, it just read and react at that point.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Man, it's good to see you again, brother.
You too, my man.
Yeah. I'm looking at your career, which is incredible, what you've done after your career. And I'm comparing you to someone in the military, to an entrepreneur when it comes to longevity and planning finance. Because there's a lot of players, man. I know you probably have a lot of friends that their career is over and they're broke. They're making big money in the games. It's the same with military. It's like there's no plan for after. Or an entrepreneur, it's like they have a season of business, and not many of us are blessed to the points where we have a multi-decades long business.
Sure.
What was different about your mindset? Because clearly you're crushing it now just like you were crushing it when you were playing, just in different ways, of course. What was different, man?
I would say my the reason I would go into investment, with the barber school, the original barber school here in town, and the reason when I stored up during my playing days, I always planned for the future, right? So Um, I was a person that believed in tithing, some giving away,
Important. Yeah.
right, to nonprofits, touching lives. To me, that's planting seeds and being rewarded in the future because you're going to have those relationships you can lean on when you need them. That's what you hope, at least. And then, as far as the barber school, you're giving back to young people that's looking for a career path, and they may not know it, have a way, or they may have a barber shop in their garage, and they just need to, become licensed. So you're feeding it to them into their future. And when you feed into other people's future, and when you help people in their nonprofits endeavors, you tend to find a way that you have some symmetry in that, and that symmetry allows for things to be birthed. And continually, I've just continued to birth new things, new ideas, work with new partnerships and new people because we're like-minded in heart and in mind. And I think a lot of people don't do that. Once you're in the NFL, I wouldn't just say in the NFL, but once you're at the top of your game, you tend to forget the people that's below you or working their way up. They now feel like you're a distant mile away, but you're not. You're only down the hall in the office, or you're just in the locker room around the corner. Kind of one of those situations that you're not that far away from each other. It's just about taking the next step and making those next achievements, so people could see the work you put in is paying off.
That's incredible, man. What I'm hearing and what you're saying, I'm kind of reading between the lines, is that a lot of your focus was not so much on yourself, but it was on everything around you and how much value you could bring to everybody else, versus a player that would be like, oh, I'm making millions a year right now. What am I going to buy? How big of a house am I going to have? Versus who am I going to help?
Well, I would say that too. I was a 20-year-old kid drafted. And so did I make some bonehead decisions? Of course I did.
Because
right?
you're 20.
Yeah, you're 20, right? So I've had the custom necklace. I did all those things. You have these nice cars with the rims, and you realize all those things lose value, and they date themselves.
Yeah,
and
value.
you look back at pictures. When I look back at pictures of some of those pictures and outfits I wore, I'm like, man, I don't know about that. I wasn't as cool as I thought it was.
I always say there's a difference between an extra miler and an empty miler. The extra miler studies 16 hours on a Saturday. The empty miler studies 15 minutes a day, every single day, committed to his excellence, the spirit of excellence. And one of the things to notate about the OBS, your lifestyle apparel brand, he uses a slight subtle distinction that most people probably don't recognize, which is the difference between an extra miler and an empty miler. Some people have an open mind. And that's in the extra mile. We have an open mind every once in a while, or some of the time, or most of the time. But your brand represents to me and claims to be the original state of mind.
Yes.
And incorporated an original state of mind is the empty mile to me, that it takes not only an open mind, but faith of who's providing us that omniscient, all-powerful spirit of excellence that God can give us. And I think it's notable to talk about the original state of mind, even beyond an open mind, an open heart, and an open soul. And Steven Jackson, you are Office Hours all-time leading rusher, because the only other all-time, we got Dickerson, we got you, we got Marshall Falk, but he's Office Hours MVP, living here in Las Vegas. Check out OBS. Check out his YouTube short channel as well. Obviously, I want to see his commencement speech and many other inspirational, aspirational, and educational pieces of content from a leader on the field and off. I'm so appreciative at all times of you being here. Thanks, Steven Jackson.
Thank you.
We are blessed once again here in Office Hours.